Hello, in this video we are looking at Garen Karunatilaka, lesson 1, further readings 1 at page 11 of the printed book. So I'll start off reading just the first 2 paragraphs of it without the text up, and then I'll read them again with the text up and analyze them in detail. Naham bhikkave anyang ekadhammampi samanupassami yo evam saddhammassa sammusaya antaradhanaya samvattati yathaidam bhikkave pamado bhikkave saddhammassa sammusaya antaradhanaya samvattati. Naham bhikkave anyang ekadhammampi samanupassami yo evam saddhammassa titiya asammusaya anantaradhanaya samvattati yathaidam bhikkave appamado bhikkave saddhammassa titiya asammusaya anantaradhanaya samvattati. Now I will put the text up to enlarge it a bit. Here we are. Naham bhikkave anyang ekadhammampi samanupassami yo evam saddhammassa sammusaya antaradhanaya samvattati yathaidam bhikkave pamado bhikkave saddhammassa sammusaya antaradhanaya samvattati. And the second paragraph. Naham bhikkave anyang ekadhammampi samanupassami yo evam saddhammassa titiya asammusaya anantaradhanaya samvattati yathaidam bhikkave appamado bhikkave saddhammassa titiya asammusaya anantaradhanaya samvattati. Naham bhikkave sorry, I've actually skipped a paragraph there. Jumped a paragraph there. There should be a fresh paragraph here. Yeah, sorry, I was confused there for a moment. I'd put the paragraph breaks in the wrong place in my TypeScript. I've now put them in the right place. So we will resume now with an analysis of this first paragraph. The first line of it, you will remember from the previous readings, it effectively repeats. Now, I do not, O monks, perceive or discern one single other thing. Naham bhikkave, I do not, O monks, anyam ekadham, or samanupassami, perceive, discern, anyam ekadhammampi, one other single thing. Yo, which, evam, so, in that way, saddhamasa sammosaya antradhanaya samvattati, which evam samvattati, which so conduces, so leads to the sammosaya, the disappearance, the decline, antaradhanaya, disappearance, saddhamasa, of the good dhamma, yathayidam, which is a merger of yatha idam. You often find those two words yatha idam as this. You mostly see the words then combined into one with the yatayidam, with the long a of yatha becomes a short a with the ya. So yatha idam, yatayidam. Yatayidam bhikkave, as this, O monks, pamado. Pamada is one of the key words of the Buddha's teaching. I'll call up the iPad. Oops, here we are. Pamada. So I'm having a problem with my iPad pen. Right, got it going again now. So pamada. That's the stem form, nominative, of course, pamado. Sanskrit equivalent, pramada. And we have the negated form of it, which appears in the second paragraph in further reading one, which is negated in the usual way by apramada in Sanskrit and appamada in Pali. As usual, you will see where a Sanskrit word begins in a consonant cluster, very frequent, as here, a pra, that will just become a pa in Pali. So pramada in Sanskrit, pamada in Pali. Where that consonant cluster occurs at the beginning of a word, it's reflected just by a single consonant in Pali because you can't begin a word with a double consonant. So pramada Sanskrit, pamada Pali. Where, however, as in apramada, there is a a vowel before the consonant cluster, then you will tend to find there is a doubling of the stronger consonant in Pali. So apramada becomes appamada in Pali. It's a key concept in the Buddha's teaching. And if there were a competition for the most important single word that the Buddha ever said, my vote would go for appamada, non-pamada. And the reason for that is that the very last recorded words of the Buddha, as recorded in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, were the short sentence that the Buddha uttered immediately before he died, which is Vayadhamma Sankhara Appamadena Sampadeta. I'll write these out. So Vayadhamma, oops, Sankhara Appamadena Sampadeta. Vaya, Sanskrit vyaya, just means going away, disappearing, vanishing, fading. Dhamma, in this context, when used as the second element of a compound, frequently means having the nature of something. So here, sankhara, that's compounded things that are put together via dhamma, have the nature to fall apart again. This is sometimes sonorously translated as impermanent are all conditioned things. A more colloquial translation is that everything that has been put together is bound to fall apart again. That is vaya dhamma sankhara. And then appamadena sampadeta. Sorry, sampadeta, not sampadeta, sampadeta. Which sampadeta, strive on, walk on, battle on. How? Appamadena, this you'll see there as the instrumental ending. If you go back to page 5 in the printed textbook, look at the instrumental ending there, exactly halfway down the page. Dhammena. This is appamadena, strive on with often translated as diligence, but it's a lot more than that. So why would that, if we had to choose one single word, why would that word get my vote as to the for the most important single word the Buddha ever said? And that's because appamadena is his instruction as the manner in which we should strive on. Basically the manner in which our lives should be lived, and that's the way he put it. His dying words: strive on how appamadena. Because it would have been the very last word the Buddha said, appamadena, rather than sampadeta, save for the fact that according to the rules of Pali syntax, as in Sanskrit, the verb comes at the end. So that's why he duly put the verb at the end in his very last utterance. But what is then pamada and appamada? I've done a note on it in my explanatory glossary, which we will look at for a moment. Here we are, called it up. It's from the root mad, which in Vedic had this meaning of joyfulness and then exuberant joy, cognate with modern Persian mast, meaning drunk. It has the idea of bursting forth with joy. It query whether it's cognate actually with the English word mad. There is a certain overlap of meaning because the idea is that you get carried away by whatever it is that is either angering you or exciting you. It had in earlier times the meaning of exuberant joy, but it came to have any sense of kind of losing your control, and in Buddhist terms, kind of losing your mindfulness. So mad, and we have the word madaniya, meaning intoxicating, but also as in beguiling, delightful as a sight or music or any beguiling or delightful thing. Now, if we look at the prahmad, pra with that verbal prefix meaning forward or forth. In fact, it's cognate with the Latin and Greek pro and our English word for, as in for or forth, meaning going forth, forwards, outwards, like a carrying on, momentum. So the pramad is the momentum, as it were, of this exuberant joy or whatever emotion it is, carrying you forth into action. So it's like pramad, a madding forth, where where you're just carried away by whatever it is that either angers you or arouses your desire or your irritation or your fear. Is where this emotion, this desire, just carries you away with it, rather than just remaining mindfully aware of it. And that's the essence of of the word pamada, and the opposite appamada, just the exact opposite of the meaning here. So we see it in the confession, kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katam, pamadena maya katang, maya by me katang done, pamadena maya katang means done by me through pamada, through loss of mindfulness, loss of control, loss of the present awareness of what's happening inside, and just getting hitched to it and being carried along with it. So I've said here the negated form apramada, also appamada in Pali, is often translated as vigilance. So as I've said here, the vigilance is too narrow a word to cover the full range of what's meant by appamada. In fact, in the Dhammapada, uh, chapter 2, there's a whole chapter devoted to appamada. So we'll now revert to our text. So here the Buddha is making a pretty bold statement. So I do not, O monks, discern any one single thing that is so conducive to the decline and disappearance of the saddhamma, of the good law, the true law, Yathaidam bhikkhave pamado, as this, O monks, namely pamada. Pamado bhikkhave, and here he's saying the same thing the other way around. Pamado bhikkhave, pamada, O monks. Samvattati, leads conducives to the sambosaya antaradhanaya, to the decline and disappearance of the saddhamasa, of the good law. Saddhamma. The word sad or sat, depending what letter follows it, is a prefix. In fact, it comes from the present participle of the verb as, meaning to be. I won't go into the detail of that right now, but we'll be looking at it in detail soon. As a prefix, it very often means virtuous or good or right. Often can be translated as good. In Sanskrit, we have the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, the sutra of the lotus of the good law, the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, literally good law lotus sutra. Some of you may have encountered that Indian guru, very active on YouTube and on his motorbike, called just Sadguru, literally the good guru. So here we have the Saddharma, the good law. Antaradhana, antara means something like inside, and in fact it's cognate with interior in Latin. So and dhana means putting. Well, that's the basic meaning of it. Not to be confused with dana. This is dhana, not the same as dana. So antaradhana literally means inside, putting, something being put inside, and it's the word that's used for disappearance, the imagery being of something disappearing inside something else. So it is pamada, that samvattati, that conduces to what? To the samosaya antaradhanaya, to the decline and disappearance, saddhammasa, of the good law. Now, the second paragraph essentially says the same thing, but the other way around, partly through just the negation of the words used in the first paragraph, and in a couple of places by the use of antonyms. That's words meaning the opposite thing. So if you look at titi, we had this in the earlier part of the lesson. It means standing or staying, or something remaining in place, from the root sta, to stand. So Vedic root sta, and makes it a verbal noun stiti. You'd expect it to see stati, but in fact it's stiti. Pali becomes titi, just means standing, remaining in place, and by extension, remaining firm, remaining steadfast. In fact, our English word steadfast, that's steady, standing. In English, it's from that same root, and here with roughly the same meaning, remaining firm, remaining in place. So, naham bhikkhave, I do not, O monks, samanupasami, discern, detect, anyang ekadhamampi, any other single thing, your which evam, so samvattati, conduces to what? Titya, to the maintenance, to the remaining in place, the standing. Asammosaya, the non-decline. Anantaradhanaya, the non-disappearance, saddhammasa, of the good law. Yathayidam bhikkhave, as this, O monks, appamado, so non-pamada. And then he repeats essentially the same thing in a different word order. Appamado bhikkave saddhammassa titiya asammosaya anantaradhanaya samvattati. So appamada, non-pamada, O monks, samvattati conduces to what? To the titiya asammosaya, to the standing, and to the non-decline asammusaya saddhamassa. Now, the next two paragraphs, this one that I've highlighted here, and the next one that I've highlighted here, are essentially repetitions of the two that we've just looked at, save that the operative words are kosajja and viryarambha. Kosajja, I've done a separate video on. I can't remember why I did a separate actual video on it, but there it is. I did, so you could watch it. It just explains this rather interesting word kosajja, which I'll briefly explain here. If you want to go into further detail, there's a little video. I think it's only a few minutes long. So kosajja actually comes, if you break it down, it means something like bad sitting or wrong sitting. And the idea is not sitting in a bad posture, but the idea behind it is kind of sitting in the sense of lounging about doing nothing, just idly sitting about. And so this word bad sitting has come to mean laziness or idleness. By contrast, we have Vidyarambho. Now, in reading 4, on page, what was it? On page 2, we had Viryam Arabhati, arouses virya, arouses energy. Here we have got the noun, sorry, in Viryam Arabhati, which I've highlighted here, Arabhati is a verb, okay, arouses. Viryam is the object of that verb. Viryam Arabhati, arouses energy. You can place those two into a compound noun, meaning the arousing of energy, or energy arousing, as Virya Arambha, which then coalesces by sandhi, the merger of vowels. Virya Arambha becomes Viryarambha. By the way, the Arabhati and Arambha, then M slips in there. There's a group of verb roots which in some forms have a nasal in it. In this case, the M before the B, and in some cases it gets lost. You'll get used to that. It's the same root, which is alternatively rub or rumb, and sometimes appears in one form, sometimes in the other. You actually have a reflection of that kind of thing. We even see remnants of it in English, because a similar kind of root is the root yuj. We also get yunjati. The N comes and goes. So we have so via one linguistic stream, the Germanic, from that root yuj, we have the English word yoke, as in the yoke of oxen, that which joins them together. Whereas that's the nasal stays in the Latin form jungere, from which we get junction. So we've got the yoke and junction, both from that same root meaning joining, one without the nasal and one with. So Viryarambha, the energy arousal, the getting going of energy. So apart from those two words, Kusajjam and Vidyarambho, the text is the same as the preceding two paragraphs. The fifth paragraph so to speak, sums it up in different words, or well, more than sums it up. It talks about the anuyogo, kusalanam dhammanam, so attaching yourself to skillful states, to skillful things. So I'll read that out, then we'll analyze it. Naham bhikkhave anyang ekadhammampi samanupassami yo evam saddhammassa sammosaya antradhanaya samvattati yathayadam bhikkhave anuyogo akusalanandhammanam ananuyogo kusalanandhammanam. So there's anu yogo akusalanam dhammanam and ananu yogo kusalanam dhammanam. Anu yogo bhikkave akusalanam dhammanam ananu yogo kusalanam dhammanam saddhammassa sammosaya antradhanaya samvattati. So, Nam Bhikkhave Samanupassami, I do not, O monks, detect. Anyang Ekadhammampi, you know that by now. Yo evam, which so samvattati, samvattati conduces to what? To the sammosaya and radhanaya of what? Saddhamassas, which is so conducive to the decline and disappearance of the good law. Yathayadham bhikkave anuyogo akusalanang dhammanang. The anuyogo, call up the iPad here. It's from the root yuj. Yuj is a root meaning to join. It's the one we were discussing a moment ago. It turns up in Latin with the nasal in it, jungere, in modern Italian, giungere, to join, French, joindre, and into English as join. And that same root turns up, as I was saying earlier, in the Germanic stream of language, where it turns up in English via Anglo-Saxon as yoke, Y-O-K-E, that which joins the oxen together. Now, it is a regular phenomenon of these verbal roots that where you get a root ending in a j or a ch sound, the verbal noun will become the equivalent g or k sound, and we get a strengthening of the vowel. I'll deal with that in a separate lesson. So, yuj, the verbal noun, is yoga, and that is the word that we know as yoga. It's the verbal noun of the root yuj, meaning to join. The original idea, if I've understood this correctly, it's more of a yogic and a Hindu thing, is the unification, the joining, the yoking of one's lower self to the Paramatman in Hinduism, to the higher self. So yoga then, and and we have here yoga with the prefix anu. Now, the prefix anu, quite a common one, it tends to mean something like, in accordance with, or along, going along with, or hit, both in the sense, in a logical sense, and also in a physical sense. So anu eti means it goes, anueti goes along with, therefore follows. And here the anu yoga is kind of hitching yourself onto something, attaching yourself to it. In fact, this anu prefix we see in sam anu pasami. So pasami, I see anu pasami, you see along, which means you consider, you examine, you ponder, anupasati. and we have the recollection of the qualities of the Buddha. So we have sati. We know sati is mindfulness, but the original meaning is remembering, recollecting. So the anusati is the remembering along. In other words, not just, oh, I remember this bit, I remember that bit, but the anusati is bringing to mind in an orderly, sequential way. That's the anusati. So these prefixes, they're pretty varied in their use, and very often you just have to detect the meanings by by usage. But it's not as bad as English for that. I mean, if you look at the word make up in English, well, what does make up mean? Well, it means lots of things. You can make up a story that's untrue. You can put on your makeup. If there's a shortfall in the cash till, the cashier might make it up out of his own pocket. If you have a quarrel with somebody, you might make it up with him. So there are so many uses of it. It's much worse in English, as it were, than it is in Pali and Sanskrit. You'll get used to the range of meanings, but this anu always tends to have the idea of a linking, a joining, a following. This anu, by the way, turns up in Greek as ana, and it's the same word. So we have logia in Greek, meaning reasoning, and analogia, which we have in English as analogy, means following the same line of reasoning. If you reason so and so, then by analogy, also so and so. So it means reasoning along, following the same line of reasoning. Anyway, back to our text. We have the anuyogo, kusalanam dhammanam, attaching yourself to, or how have I explained it here? So yeah, indulging in something, attaching yourself to it, engaging in it. And what you engage in would be in the genitive, so the engagement of means engagement in, kusalanam dhammanam. So you have the anuyogo akusalanam dhammanam, engaging in unskillful dhammas, and ananuyogo means the non-engagement in kusalanam dhammanam, in skillful dhammas. And the final sentence then effectively says the same thing in a different order of words. Anuyogo bhikkave, engagement, O monks, akusalanam dhammanam, in unskillful dhammas, unskillful states. And the ananuyogo, the non-engagement, kusalanam dhammanam, in skillful states. Saddhamassa samosaya antradhanaya samvattati, conduces to, well, you know the meaning of these words now, saddhamassa samosaya antradhanaya. So that's it now for further reading number 1.